The exercises you avoid are probably the ones that would change your body the most. That's not a motivational poster. It's how training actually works. The movements that feel awkward, humbling, or uncomfortable usually target the exact weak links holding you back. And most people skip them for years. This isn't about intelligence. Plenty of smart lifters avoid these exercises. It's about discomfort. Your brain is wired to steer you toward things that feel manageable and away from things that expose weakness. That's fine for survival. It's terrible for gym progress. Today we're covering 17 of the hardest gym exercises with the biggest benefits. The ones that people avoid not because they don't work, but because they work in ways that feel inconvenient. Some are technically demanding. Some are mentally exhausting. Some just hurt in a way that makes you want to quit. But every single one delivers strength, muscle growth, or functional carryover that you can't fake with easier alternatives. This is general training information, not medical advice. If you have injuries or conditions, work with a professional who knows your situation. Here's what matters. Difficulty is a feature, not a flaw. These exercises are hard because they're honest. They don't let you hide behind momentum, ego, or sloppy form. And that's exactly why they work. Let's get into 17 hardest gym exercises with the biggest benefits that people avoid. Number 1, Bulgarian split squat. The Bulgarian split squat isn't just a leg exercise. It's a balance test, a hip stability audit, and a psychological confrontation with your weaker side. All at once. You stand on one leg with your rear foot elevated, then squat down until your front thigh is screaming and your brain is begging you to stop. People avoid this because the discomfort is immediate and personal. Single leg work hits metabolic fatigue faster than bilateral squats, and there's no hiding asymmetries. Your weak side gets exposed every rep. The weight feels twice as heavy as it should, and your ego hates that. But the benefits are massive. Unilateral strength fixes imbalances that stall compound lifts. You train glute medius and minimus stabilizers that barbell squats barely touch. And here's the detail most people miss. Your trunk angle changes what muscles get hammered. More forward lean hits posterior chain harder. More upright keeps it quad dominant. You can dial this, and once you stop surviving the movement and start owning it, slow down the bottom. If you can't control the lowest position, you're not building the leg, you're just getting through it. Number 2, Romanian deadlift strict tempo. The Romanian deadlift punishes impatience. It looks like a strength exercise, but it's really a control exercise in disguise. Add a strict tempo, 3 or 4 seconds down, and you remove every possible shortcut. No bouncing, no momentum, just your hamstrings doing the braking, while your brain counts seconds that feel like hours. People skip the tempo version because it's boring and uncomfortable. You can't load it heavy enough to impress anyone, and it burns in a way that doesn't feel productive to lifters chasing weight on the bar. But that slow eccentric is exactly where hypertrophy happens. Lengthened position training under tension is one of the cleanest ways to build posterior chain size without crushing your spine. The way you know it's working. Your hamstrings feel like they're doing the braking on the way down. The way you know it's not. Your lower back is doing all the apologizing afterward. Keep your ribs stacked, hips traveling back, and the bar close. Feel the hamstrings stretch, not your spine rounding. That's the difference between building muscle and building problems. Number 3, weighted pull UPS. Weighted pull-ups are the ultimate honesty test in the gym. You can spend years training back with cables and machines and momentum, then strap on 25 pounds and realize you can barely do 3 clean reps. The weight doesn't lie, your grip fails, your scapular control disappears, and every half-rep habit you develop gets exposed immediately. People avoid this because it's humbling. You might bench impressive numbers but struggle with a single plate hanging from your waist. That gap between how strong you think your back is and how strong it actually is can be uncomfortable to face. But the payoff for weighted pull-ups is enormous. You're building real strength to body weight ratio with carryover to lats, upper back, biceps, and trunk stiffness. You're also training tightness, the ability to stay rigid while your body moves through space. That skill transfers to everything. Start from a dead hang with full control. pull your elbows down toward your hips instead of chasing chin height. The rep counts when your back does the work, not when your neck cranes over the bar. Number 4, front squat. The front squat is a posture fight from start to finish. The bar sits across your front delts, and the moment your upper back rounds or your elbows drop, the weight punishes you instantly. There's no hiding weak thoracic extension or lazy bracing. You either stay upright or you fail the rep in an obvious, undeniable way. That's exactly why people avoid it. Back squats let you grind through ugly positions. Front squats don't. The weight is lighter, the ego takes a hit, and the rack position feels awkward if your wrist or lat mobility isn't there. Most lifters would rather load more plates on their back than address why the front squat feels so difficult. But that difficulty is the benefit. Front squats hammer your quads with serious core and upper back tension built in. They teach you to brace properly and build strength out of the hole that transfers directly to cleaner back squats. Here's the thing. Front squat weakness is often a mobility or rack position issue, not a leg issue. Your legs might be ready. Your position isn't. Elbows up, ribs down. When the elbows drop, the rep is already ending. Number 5, Nordic hamstring curl. The Nordic hamstring curl is eccentric strength with nowhere to hide. You kneel, lock your ankles under something solid, and lower your body toward the floor while your hamstrings fight gravity. Most people feel like they're losing a slow motion battle because they are. That's the point. People avoid Nordics because they're humbling and uncomfortable. You might squat and deadlift respectable weight, then collapse halfway through your first Nordic rep. The exercise exposes a specific type of hamstring strength that most training doesn't build, the ability to break force eccentrically while your muscles are lengthening. That eccentric capacity is exactly what protects hamstrings during sprinting and high-speed movements. Research on Nordic shows significant reductions in hamstring injury rates for athletes, often around 50% in some studies, though methodology varies. The point isn't that Nordics are magic. The point is that eccentric hamstring strength matters, and this exercise builds it directly. Control the descent. Don't force range you haven't earned. The goal is smooth deceleration, not a face-first dive into floor. Number 6, overhead barbell press. The overhead barbell press looks simple. Stand up and push the bar overhead. But it's actually a full body tension exercise disguised as a shoulder movement. You have to lock your ribs, squeeze your glutes, and brace your trunk while pressing. Most people fail because they leak force through the midsection or turn the lift into a standing incline press with excessive back arch. People avoid strict pressing because the weights are embarrassingly light compared to bench press, and the movement feels unstable. There's no bench to brace against, no leg drive to save ugly reps. Just you, the bar, and gravity. The benefit is real overhead strength with shoulder stability under load. You're also building stack posture skill, the ability to align your skeleton efficiently while producing force. That carries over to everything from jerks to daily life. Here's some historical context. The press used to be an Olympic lift until judging became impossible. Lifters kept leaning back further, turning it into a weird standing backbend contest. The lift got removed, but the lesson remains. Strict form matters. Squeeze your glutes, keep ribs down, and press your head through at the top. Don't turn it into a backbend. Number 7, walking lunges heavy. Walking lunges combine leg strength with conditioning, and there's no place to hide. Every step is a fresh rep. You can't rest at the top like a squat. You can't set the weight down between reps like a deadlift. You just keep moving until the set is done, and your lungs and legs negotiate every single step. People avoid heavy walking lunges because they're exhausting in a way that feels inefficient. You're not lifting maximal weight. You're not isolating a muscle. You're just suffering through a movement that challenges strength, stability, balance, and cardiovascular capacity simultaneously. But that's the benefit. Walking lunges hammer quads, glutes, and hip stabilizers while forcing coordination under fatigue. Research shows high muscle activation in glute max, glute med, and quads during loaded lunges, particularly during the drive phase of each step. Lunges feel simple until you go heavy. Then they become a moving test of alignment and mental grit. Every sloppy foot placement gets punished. Step with control, stay tall, and drive through the whole foot, not just the toes pushing you forward. Number 8, pause bench press. The pause bench press removes the easiest cheat in pressing, the bounce. When you touch the bar to your chest and pause for a full second before pressing, you eliminate stretch reflex assistance and momentum. What's left is your actual strength from the bottom position, and for many lifters, that's a rude awakening. People avoid pause bench because it forces lighter weights. Research comparing touch and go versus pause bench shows that touch and go typically allows higher 1-rep maxes. That difference is the stretch reflex doing work you thought your muscles were doing. Pausing exposes a gap. The benefit is honest pressing strength, especially off the chest where most people fail heavy attempts. Pause bench also forces a tighter setup because you can't rely on timing and bounce to save sloppy positioning. Here's something counterintuitive. Pause bench sometimes feels lighter in your hands, even though it's objectively harder. That's because the pause forces you to stay tight, and tightness creates stability. Pause like a photograph, then press like you mean it. Number 9, farmer's carry. The farmer's carry is brutally simple, which is exactly why it's brutal. You pick up heavy weights, one in each hand, and walk. That's it. But simple doesn't mean easy. Carrying heavy loads while moving forces your grip, traps, core, and posture to cooperate simultaneously. There's no rest position. There's no momentum to borrow. Just constant full body tension for every step. People avoid carries because they don't feel like real training. There's no specific muscle pump, no machine to sit on, no clear rep scheme. Walking around the gym with heavy dumbbells looks unglamorous and feels awkward, but the benefits stack up fast. Grip strength, trap and upper back density, core stiffness under load, and conditioning that doesn't feel like traditional cardio. Research on loaded carries shows significant core musculature activation across multiple planes during locomotion. Your body has to stabilize in ways static lifting never demands. Carries are one of the few training tools that look unimpressive until you try them heavy. Then they become a personality test. Walk tall, ribs down, shoulders quiet. Don't let the weight bully your posture. Number 10, hip thrust pause lockout. The hip thrust gets mocked online, but the pause version is no joke. Adding a 2-second hold at the top removes the bounce that lets people move big weight without actually contracting their glutes. With the pause, you must reduce real glute force at end range while keeping your ribs and pelvis stacked. Most people discover their glutes aren't as strong as their hip thrust numbers suggest. People skip the pause because it's uncomfortable and forces lighter loads. The ego prefers big plates and fast reps over controlled contractions that actually target the muscle. But here's the nuance. A recent training study found squats and hip thrusts produce similar glute hypertrophy over 9 weeks, with different secondary benefits. Hip thrusts aren't magic, they're targeted. The value is learning what a real glute contraction feels like under load, not just moving weight through hip extension. The biggest benefit isn't the movement itself. It's finally understanding the difference between your glutes working and your lower back compensating. Pause at the top. If you feel your lower back more than your glutes, reset your rib position and try again. Number 11, deficit deadlift. The deficit deadlift starts you in a harder position on purpose. By standing on a plate or low platform, you increase the range of motion and force your body to generate strength from a deeper starting point. That extra inch or 2 off the floor exposes weak leg drive, poor hip mobility, and sloppy slack pulling habits instantly. People avoid deficits because they require lighter weight and more patience. You can't muscle through a deficit pull the way you might grind through a regular deadlift. The positioning demands are higher, and the ego cost is real. The benefit is a stronger initial pull and better positional discipline. If your deadlift always stalls off the floor, deficits address that weakness directly. You're training the exact range where most lifters are weakest. Here's the key insight. A deficit doesn't just make the lift harder, it makes it more technical. Every habit you develop for getting away with loose positioning becomes obvious when you're starting deeper. Start tight before you pull. If you can't get tight in the setup, you're already behind. Number 12, single arm dumbbell rows, strict, no rotation. Most dumbbell rows in commercial gyms are body English exhibitions. Lifters grab heavy dumbbells and heave them up using hip rotation, momentum, and spinal twisting. It looks impressive. It builds very little upper back. Strict single arm rows, where your hip stays square and your torso doesn't rotate, force the target muscles to do the actual work. That's why people avoid them. The weight drops significantly. The movement feels less satisfying, and there's no drama to distract from the burn. But the benefit is real upper back development with better scapular control. Research on rowing mechanics shows that technique changes what gets stressed. Sloppy rows often become more of a spinal endurance event than a back-building exercise. Strict rows keep the tension where it belongs. There's a reason strict rows are unpopular. They're quiet. No swinging. No grunting. No ego-feeding weight. Just results that show up over months of consistent work. Square your hips. Pull your elbow toward your back pocket and pause the squeeze at the top. Number 13. Seated overhead dumbbell press. Sitting down removes your favorite cheats. No leg drive. No hip thrust to save a failing rep. No leaning back to turn a press into an incline movement. The seated overhead dumbbell press isolates shoulder strength in a way that standing variations don't, and most people find the honest version significantly harder. People assume sitting makes exercises easier. For pressing, it often makes them harder because it removes every compensation pattern you've developed. Dumbbells also demand bilateral stability. Each arm has to do its own work without the barbell connecting them. The benefit is cleaner shoulder hypertrophy stimulus with improved control at end range. Studies comparing different overhead pressing variations show meaningful differences in muscle activation depending on stability demands and implement choice. The mistake people make is letting the dumbbells drift forward as fatigue sets in, turning a shoulder press into a mini incline press. That shifts the work away from your delts and toward your chest. Stack your ribs over your hips, press smoothly, and keep the path vertical, not angled forward. Number 14, sled push/drag. Sled work is relentless because there's no eccentric rest. When you squat, you lower the weight and get a brief moment of reduced tension. When you push or drag a sled, the resistance never stops. Every step is pure concentric effort, and your lungs and legs have to negotiate constantly. People avoid sleds because the work feels punishing without the productive feeling of lifting heavy weights. There's no pump, no rep count to celebrate, just grinding effort that leaves you gasping. But the benefits are significant. Leg power, work capacity, and conditioning that can be easier on joints than high-impact alternatives. Research on sled-resisted training shows improvements in acceleration and sprint mechanics at various loads. And here's a practical note. Sled work often leaves you less sore than brutal eccentric leg days because there's no lengthening phase to create muscle damage. Athletes love it for exactly that reason. Small, powerful steps. Keep pushing the ground away instead of bouncing with each stride. Number 15, a wheel rollout. Most of training flexes the spine. Crunches, sit-ups, cable crunches. The wheel rollout does the opposite. It forces you to resist spinal extension while your arms reach forward and your body travels toward the floor. It's like a plank that gets exponentially harder every inch you roll out. People avoid rollouts because they expose weakness immediately. You might do hundreds of crunches without issue, then collapse on your third rollout rep. That's because rollouts demand anti-extension strength, the ability to keep your spine neutral while forces try to pull it into a hyperextended position. Research on core exercises found rollouts produce very high activation of rectus abdominis and obliques compared to other common variations. But here's what most people don't realize. The rollout also exposes weak lats and shoulder control. You're essentially dragging your body forward with full body tension, not just working abs. That bracing strength carries directly into squats, deadlifts, presses, and carries. Ribs down, glutes tight. Only roll to the range you can actually control, not the range you can survive. Number 16, tempo squats. Tempo squats destroy ego by removing everything lifters use to hide weakness. No bounce at the bottom. No speed to blast through sticking points. No momentum to cover sloppy positions. You lower slowly, 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds, and you feel everything, especially in the ranges where you're weakest. People avoid tempo work because the weights are embarrassingly light and the discomfort is high. A 3-second descent with a pause at the bottom might cut your working weight by 30% or more. That's a hard pill for lifters who measure progress in plates. But the benefit is better technique and better positional strength built through increased time under tension. Recent research suggests slower eccentric tempos may optimize quad hypertrophy and improve strength in certain contexts. Tempo isn't magic. It's a tool for forcing control when you'd rather rely on momentum. Think of tempo squats as form checks you can't argue with. The speed tells the truth. Count the descent. If you can't maintain the same speed throughout, the load is controlling you, not the other way around. Number 17, handstand hold wall assisted. The handstand hold is nervous system control more than raw strength. People avoid it because it looks embarrassing when you're new. Progress is measured in seconds rather than pounds. And there's no immediate payoff that feels like real training. You just stand on your hands against a wall and try not to fall over. But the benefits accumulate quietly. Shoulder endurance, scapular control, wrist and forearm tolerance, and full body line tension. Research on handstand quality links performance to shoulder function and stability metrics, not just arm strength. The handstand teaches stacking, the ability to align your joints efficiently so you're not leaking energy fighting your own structure. Here's the reality check. The wall makes it look easier. The wall doesn't balance you. It just prevents catastrophe while you learn to organize your body in an inverted position. The skill is in pushing tall through the shoulders and holding a rigid line, not muscling through with brute force. Push tall through the shoulders. Don't hang in the joints. Hold a line. Difficulty is a filter, not a punishment. The exercises on this list aren't hard because someone designed them to be miserable. They're hard because they demand things most training lets you skip: balance, control, patience, eccentric strength, honest positioning, and the willingness to use lighter weight for better results. Every exercise you avoid is probably avoiding something you need. That's not a judgment. It's just how adaptation works. Your body gets better at what you challenge it with and stays weak where you don't. You don't have to add all 17 of these tomorrow. Pick one that made you uncomfortable just hearing about it. That discomfort is data. It's telling you where the gap is. Which one do you avoid most? Drop it in the comments. You're probably not alone. If this helped you rethink your training, subscribe for more content that cuts through the noise. And share this with someone who's been stuck doing the same comfortable exercises for too long.